Hello everyone and welcome to the How Good Is, or How Good Are rather, because it's two today. Today we've got Momoko and Mitama Siren version. Now it says Mermaid version, and I know the Japanese right here, there's Nino, it's also Mermaid. But I guess they accidentally made them Sirens instead. Now here's the important part. What's the difference between mermaids and sirens? So mermaids are these shy and good creatures that live in the water. We all know mermaids. But comparative to that, sirens, they sit on rocks. They sing siren songs, and when sailors come by and they see those sirens in the distance, they both go, "Oh man, that's a hot looking girl," and they also hear that song and go like, "Oh man, that's a cool song right there," and they go over there with the boat crashes on the rocks and they fucking drown. So sirens want to kill you. Sirens are evil while mermaids are good. Now why is there a difference here with Momoko and Mitama? Well, in their transformation they both sit on rocks and sing. And in their Doppel der Magier too, they also like have a siren song they shout towards the enemy. So also mermaids I don't think can breathe on land, but they can, so that's aside. So I guess they accidentally, while they were making the mermaid version, they accidentally made them sirens. So whoopsie, I guess they're sirens now. And I guess it also is more fitting to Mitama, because Mitama is also the kind of character that lures you in with certain alluring qualities. And then when you get close to her and she gives you a food, you fucking die. So it makes sense that they are indeed sirens. Anyway, that's just an aside. Moving on to them. Also, I guess I also need to mention this. Their 5-star art. It's not as good as the 4-star art. Main reason is because that's not how boobs work. They don't waft forwards when you're moving forward. They waft backwards, right? Whatever. Moving on. What are they actually like as a unit? They have 2 Excellers, 2 Blasters, they are Magia type, and we can see that, oh my god, that attack is pretty darn good. I think before SE, with the attack that they have here, is like the top 5 highest attack in the game. After SE, they're only like top 8 or top 7 or something. And defense is still pretty decent. Especially before SE. Before SE, they actually have way more defense than anyone else in like the top 5 high attack characters. But after SE, they actually aren't that high in defense anymore compared to some other high attack characters. Like Ashley, I think, has more than this and more attack after SE and more HP after SE. Their HP is also not that amazing. But the important part is they have high attack and at least a non-zero defense, right? The reason why their attack being high is important is, we're going to see that later. The reason, we're also going to keep in mind that their HP maybe might not be that high, and we're going to see why that actually isn't quite that important. Moving on though, we see down here they have a connect which gives damage up, it gives damage cut and chance to Magia Seal. It's only a chance, which sucks, it's terrible. But apart from that, what does it give? Damage cut is like, oh, okay. It's very defensive. I always bring this up, but if the character you're connecting to doesn't actually get attacked, this connect does nothing. I mean, sure, it gives a damage up, and it's basically the only good thing it actually does. The other two are kind of situational. So you have 2 situational effects that, when they work out in your favor, are pretty alright. But in most cases, when you use this connect, you're just going to see the damage up being effective, and other than that, not a whole lot. So that connect is not that amazing. Should have given barrier on connect. What is barrier? Well, we see that later. We have the Magia right here and the Magia 2. Now, this right here is a typo. It doesn't give defense up. This is damage up right here. It's correct on the Magia. So it hits 5 random enemies, which I have heard might be, actually, not just that I've heard it, I've also postulated that myself, that maybe the next Kimochi is going to have a low number of tiles, either 1 tile, 2 tile, or 3 tiles. Because anything between 1 to 3 tiles, if an enemy has this many tiles, 1 to 3, then a multi-hit Magia or multi-hit Doppel will actually be really effective compared to either a single target or an AoE Magia. So if an enemy has a low number of tiles, like somewhere between 1 to 3, this would be great. And since it's now the second character in a row that has a multi-hit, and the next Kimochi that is coming up is probably going to be fire type, meaning you need to bring your water characters. They're not a water character, but they are a void character, meaning that void is actually, as far as I know, neutral still to Kimochi, even though they have a mental shield. I think void is still neutral. So with them being neutral, they can still do some damage, and with the next few swimsuit units, at least one more swimsuit unit is going to come out. They're probably going to be water. Maybe they also have a multi-hit, so we're going to have to watch out for that. So this might be actually something to look into for that. But just in general, against low hit, low tile enemies, even if they aren't specifically Kimochi, that's going to be quite alright. And they do actually have a decent amount of Magia damage and everything from their SE. Now the damage up to self, sadly it's only to self, but guess what? On Doppel, It's defense up, not defense up, it's damage up to everyone. Yeah, it's a typo. It's damage up to everyone, which is pretty good. It's pretty good damage up to everyone, 40%. Sadly, only 3 turns. A bunch of other buffers have more than that. Mikage buffs everyone's damage up for like 5 turns for 45% or something like that, and on top of that, like 45% attack up for 5 turns or something. It was fucking crazy. But still, this is still a pretty good effect. It's pretty nice having this. What else does it do? Barrier. It does barrier 5,000 on Magia and 10,000 on Doppel. How good is barrier? Now, I know that this unit seems to be all about the barrier that we're going to see in a bit, and I can't really give an in-depth explanation of how good or how bad barrier could be, and that's why I'm going to make an entire another video about this. So maybe later today, maybe tomorrow, probably tomorrow, I'm gonna make an entire video just about barrier, where I talk about all the intricacies, because there's actually quite a bunch of stuff to talk about, and if I talked about it in this video will be like 15 minutes longer. So instead, I'm just gonna, at the very end, tell you guys how well barrier works for this unit right here, and then if you want to know more about it, I'm gonna have my entire video about that. But for now, I'm just gonna say the barrier on the Magia 2 is decent, but it's not quite that powerful. Moving on to the Spirit Enhancement, we see they have a bunch of Magia damage up, multiple Magia damage up bonuses, multiple of those bonuses, so many bonuses of Magia up, and some double damage up. That's pretty good. They also have Evade. Okay, they have Regenerate HP, which is actually interestingly kind of important because they have Attack Up and Attack Up while at max health. And you know how attack ups are stronger the bigger your base attack is. Units with big base attack get a lot more out of attack ups, and they just have baked in basically 30% when the battle starts, which already makes them hit so goddamn hard, even without any memoria, compared to other characters also without memoria. They already hit pretty darn hard, and of course you can stack memoria on top of this, which is gonna make it great. If you stack a sword on top of this, then just with 1 memoria you'll already be almost capped on attack up, which is kind of absurd, which is kind of amazing. And on top of that, you put the formation. Like I said, formation bonuses are not part of your attack up buffs like this. They're completely separate, and they basically just make it so that high attack is even more important. It scales even harder with higher attack. So yeah, they're gonna have a really nice time going to really high attack values, which is really good, because they're gonna be neutral to everything, because they're void type, which means that of course Mitama is the top, because of course she is. Which kind of sucks sometimes when you have a Kimochi where you want to be super effective, but some people also say, what if there's a Kimochi at some point that is void type, and maybe they will make it that a void type Kimochi will actually take increased damage from other void types. Maybe they'll do something like that. We don't quite know, but it's possible. And even so, even without that, a good void type character is something that you can at least put on basically every Kimochi. Sure, you're missing out on like 50% damage, but if they're a really good void type character, then you can still make a lot of damage happen. Now, are they a really good void character? Well, we're not quite done yet. So the regenerate HP actually kind of works out staying at maximum HP. So the HP restore on self with their active. So when they use the active, they boom heal themselves by 35%, which is really good. And they also regenerate a MP over 3 turns, which is also pretty good. Of course, the regenerate MP gets increased by the MP gain up and other memoria that you might put on them that might give MP gain up if you wanted to do that. And they also give themselves barrier 10,000 damage for 5 turns. That's probably the best part about this active. As an active, barrier is actually pretty darn good. Sadly, they only give it to themselves. You know, instead of giving the Magia Seal on here, they should have just popped down like a 5,000 damage barrier on their connect target. But the thing is, the reason I believe they didn't do that just yet is with their testing. They might be testing how barrier works, if it's gonna be too strong, too weak, and then they might, or if it's just working at all, and then they might make some changes later on, and maybe that's why they did this. And like I said, this is the 3rd Momoko unit now that is introducing a new mechanic to the game. Thanks, Momoko, for being the forerunner. So how good is that actually? How good is this entire active actually? Pretty darn fucking good. I think this is a really, really good active. It heals you up till you can get back to the maximum HP if you're going to run other memoria that give you bonuses of maximum HP, which you should. Not just because they already have one and because they have regenerate HP because of barrier. Because here's the important bit. If you use barrier and you are currently at full HP, you're gonna stay at full HP and continue to get more out of your maximum HP bonuses. So if you have this and a sword maybe, and maybe some other memoria that give attack up or defense up at maximum health, you're gonna stay at maximum health with the barrier even when you get attack, which is pretty darn good. Like I said, I'm gonna make a whole entire video about barrier, but for now, at least we have a character here who synergizes with itself, a character that actually has different parts of their kit that work together and actually make the character better with the interaction of all these different parts of the kit that this character has. So the fact that you can keep yourself topped up, stay topped up, keep getting those full HP bonuses, that already makes this really darn nice for just pure on attack, pure on defense, if you have some defense up at max HP memoria in there. And just because of that, they're already a pretty good character. They're already a pretty good character just by the fact that they're really hard to kill in general, because whenever they magia or double, they get another barrier up there, which is so goddamn good. But also, while they're at full HP, they're going to output really, really well. And if they are at low HP and they all get a barrier, maybe you have some memoria that you might want to slot in that that give you a bonus at low HP as well. And then you're going to stay at low HP with your barrier for longer and keep having those bonuses be active. So that's also pretty good. So overall, they have some really strong effects with the kit that synergizes with itself, the incredible attack together with the attacker bonuses, the fact that they don't have elemental weaknesses, which sometimes can be a negative because you don't have an elemental strength either. But sadly, their connect isn't that great. Their magia is decent but not that amazing. So overall, they're kind of missing some of their tools. Like half of their kit doesn't really do much, half of the kit doesn't really contribute to themselves. The SE overall, while I've said that it synergizes well with itself, there are also a lot of dead nodes. Like the blast damage up, I don't think doesn't actually do that much. Actually, the blast damage up is kind of alright. But there are a lot of nodes in here that you probably could have put together, like instead of 2 maga damage up 2 nodes, maybe like a maga damage up 4 node, or instead of 3 of these double damage up nodes, why not 2? And then you have like 2 more slots for some really cool effects that you could have in there, like Magia Start, MP Start. MP Start would make them like way better. But the effects that they have on their SE are a bit spread out over too many nodes, in my opinion, and they could have maybe had another good effect in there. So overall, they have the capability of being really goddamn strong. However, they do have some important weaknesses. Like I said, Connect Maga 2, not that amazing. That maybe doesn't quite make them a top unit, but they're still a very solid unit. It's like one of the most solid units that we've seen that just works well by itself. I think I said something earlier back with Uwasa Sana, but Uwasa Sana is not a unit that is really stand out in particular places, that is not so good that you would see them in the meta, but they are just such a solid character that if you have a fresh account, if you were to pick any unit to give to a fresh account on 4 slot and be like, here, take this unit is gonna carry you for the entire game. Uwasa Sana was a really good unit for that you just have and it's just good. And this is another good contender for that. This is a character that just works. This character just works. It might not be on the top, but it just works really well. It's a really solid character, and that's probably what I would say. Now, you might have noticed that I haven't talked about the personal yet. Why? Because the person is fucking terrible. It's really goddamn terrible. I'm sorry. This is one of the worst personals I've seen in a while. So I've got some clams right here that Momoko put on the grill. They look nice. And then we got some Mitama sea cucumbers that you don't want to eat that. You just don't do that. However, that's not all there is. So, of course, in the gacha, we have something else. We have memoria, okay? I'm going to start with the 3-star memoria first, because that one is simple. Anti-poison attack up, terrible, moving on. Next up is this, Whereabouts of the Bubbles. So this is actually the best Kimochi memoria in the entire game. And whales, most whales that I've heard of, they will be rolling for multiple MLB copies of this. So whales will actually roll the shit out of this gacha to get multiple of these copies. Actually, what they will do is they will get multiple 1 slots of this and then buy their way into the Forster Overlimiter course to get like MLB copies of this, which is something you can do to sort of bypass the RNG of the gacha, but costs more money. Like, you can pay money to like MLB faster. But one way or the other, you're probably going to have to pay money or get a whole bunch of rolls to get this. So now the question is, first off, why is this so good? So damage increase 30%, 40% ally killer, and 12.5% maga damage up. Maga damage up is incredibly important when you want to burst in Kimochi. So just the maga damage itself is pretty good, but on top of that, 30% damage increase. And if you're playing Kimochi, probably the enemy is always going to have stats on it. Even if it's just on 1 tile, 40% more damage to that 1 tile is also quite alright. It's like a bonus. If it didn't have the 40% ally killer on it, it would still be amazing. But it's just a bonus, right? In this case, it's just a bonus. It's not the main effect, but as a side effect, it's great. So but this is just really good if you have a turn in Kimochi where you just want to burst. You just want to have a character that hits for 10 million every single hit, which is the maximum damage you can do. You can't do more than like 10 million damage in a hit. if you just have this one burst turn where you want to have your character do that much damage, you just pop this memoria and you just do that. You just do 10 million damage on every single one of your AoE Magia tile hits. Bam! It's right in there. It's really nice for that. Absolutely great for that. And this is what makes this memoria so good. Now the question is also, now that I've said all of this, if you're a free-to-play player and you want to do really good in Kimochi, that means you should roll for this memoria, right? No. I keep just bringing this up every single gacha. Every single gacha I bring this up. Even if the memoria is so goddamn good, don't roll the gacha specifically for the memoria, okay? Because it takes so goddamn many rolls to get this at maximum break. It's gonna take more rolls probably than to get a character to 4-slot, right? I have about 20 different 4-slot SSR characters. 20 is a bit much, maybe 15, in the game. That's gonna be much more, maybe like 11 or 12. However, I have like, let's say 12 4-slot, 4-star characters. And of all of the limited memoria, limited gacha memoria, I have 2 maximum broke. That's how hard it is. That's how hard it is to actually maximum break a gacha memoria. Some people might get really lucky and do it. Just don't try it, okay? Now, there is still something to be said if you're a dolphin. Like, if you only pay like for the Magia Pass and maybe like a few gems here and there, you only spend a little bit on the game, then you could theoretically roll until you get 1 copy of this, and then buy the over limiter course each month to slowly get this to MLB. That's something that you could potentially do if you're gonna have over limiter course anyway. I guess this is something, this is what they basically are used for the limited memoria that are really good, and then you can put them on there, you get them to the maximum break, you can bypass all the bullshit RNG. And you know what? Maybe sometime in the future, I think it's gonna happen someday it's gonna happen in the future, where they're just gonna say, you know what, we're gonna put the limited memoria in the Mitama coin shop. It's gonna happen someday, I hope. And maybe when that happens, we can then use some of our pulls to actually get these memoria. Until then though, with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and I'll see you guys next time.